welcome to another video. I love you, Canva. You guys, when I tell you how many times I've filmed this video, so I did it yesterday in the morning, which I'm going to actually cut to halfway through this video because it was a really good take. But about, the first, I would say 6 to 8 minutes, this is what I looked like. And I'm not gonna do that to you guys. You would have just been distracted the entire time. I know you. I'm distracted looking at it. The hair stuck. You know what it was. I put my makeup on right before doing the video. So I had a whole ass day. Went to an improv show, went out to dinner. I come home before going out and I was like, oh my God, I've gotta quickly refilm this because I saw the footage. And I did refilm it and it looked like this. Why that video had blue lighting, I have no idea. This is just such a good story. I think the world just wanted me to rehearse it many times before I told you. Today, we are talking about a brand that I love so much. When I tell you how much I love this brand, you won't even understand. As a digital marketer, through and through, I use Canva all the time. And I would say a lot of people are in the same boat as me, whether they're a professional marketer or just someone who likes to have, their own projects. So what is Canva? Canva is basically a graphic design platform, but it's super user-friendly. It's kind of like Photoshop for dummies, but it's not only that. Anything between making your own business cards to making posters for your band's show, creating email marketing campaigns. And the best thing is they've got these beautiful templates that you can use and pull from. On top of that, also beautiful photos and fonts and colors, but their templates are really just like the game changer, because if you don't really know how to start designing something unique, you can just pull one of those, tweak it according to your brand's colors, logos, all of that, and you can have a beautiful campaign in not much time. And the great thing is it's free. You can pay for a subscription plan with more features. I pay for it because I think it's like $12 per month. I would pay $50 a month for Canva because I love it so much. So this is the story of Melanie Perkins, Cliff Obrecht, and Cameron Adams and how they created Canva. Way back in the day, Melanie and Cliff are dating. And yes, this is another couple's founder story. I'm sorry, but you guys know that I love them. And I would tell this story regardless because, again, Canva is one of my favorite things in the entire world. Melanie is 19, Cliff is 20. They're in college and they get this idea to make a graphic design business. They were like, how are we gonna take on all of these huge established companies? They decided to create a yearbook making platform. They came up with this idea because Melanie's mom worked in a school and she said every year towards the end, all of these teachers who had no training in graphic design would just have to put together these yearbooks, and these books mean a lot to people. You look through them like your whole life afterwards. They wanted to create a platform where you could have the templates and have a really easy way of making yearbooks, and then they would make money by submit your yearbook design once you're all finished, and they would print the yearbooks themselves, bring it to someone who would bind it and make it into the actual yearbook, and then they would just distribute it to these schools. Obviously needed some capital to get this off the ground because when you're starting a more tech business, it's hard to bootstrap loads because you need developers and you need a tech team. They get $50,000 from family and friends, and then they also have another $5,000 from their tax returns. They take this money and they bring it to some developers locally in Perth. This is 2008 by this point, by the way. It takes 6 months to create this finalized product. Also, I need to mention that during this whole time before their actual big launch much later on, they're called Fusion, but I'm just gonna call them Canva throughout the video just so there's no confusion. So it takes them 6 months to get this product, and in 2008 they launch it to the world and they have 16 schools on board. They said that throughout the next few years it started with 16 schools, the next year is 50, the next year is 100, and the next year it was 300. So it was steadily growing, and they weren't really taking any money from the business. They're reinvesting everything they can back into the business. Melanie has printing machines in her mom's living room that towards the end of the school year, when everyone wants their yearbook, they're just printing 24/7. And it's a few years into this that people start coming to them and they're like, your platform's amazing. Can I use it to make the menus for my restaurant? And someone else would be like, hey, can I use it to create a flyer for so-and-so? They knew that they were getting something right because there was so much inbound coming to them. And remember, they always wanted to be a big graphic design company. They were just using yearbooks as a vehicle to get there. So having this inbound was kind of their proof of concept. In 2010, Bill Tai is speaking at a conference in Perth, Australia. And if you don't know who Bill Tai is, it's fine. I didn't either. He's a big Silicon Valley investor. This was kind of during the big Silicon Valley tech boom. You know, it's still on the up and up at this time in 2010. And she hears him speak and she was like, oh my God, the potential in the tech sector right now is so huge. And why can't we create this next big tech company doing graphic design? And so she approaches him after he's done speaking and she kind of gives him the elevator pitch for Canva. And she's like, what do you think? He was like, yeah, it's interesting. If you're ever in San Francisco, we can grab lunch and you can tell me more. Obviously, she has no reason to be in San Francisco. But right after, and luckily her brother was living there, books a ticket to San Francisco, decides to sleep on her brother's floor for 2 weeks. She gets there and she messages Bill Tai and she's like, hi, I'm randomly in town. Do you want to grab lunch? And surprisingly, he followed up right away and he was like, of course. She arrives with like a printed out stack of her pitch deck, kind of like running him through the business plan. And this is her first time pitching someone. Also, someone as big as Bill Tai, she's so nervous and he's on his phone
the entire time.
So she leaves this meeting and she was like, oh my God, he hated me. Is this even a good business idea? What happened? And then she gets an email from him and he was like, hey, I think you've got a really great idea. I'm on board to invest once we find a tech team. Because remember, they had that initial tech team to build out the yearbook platform, but they needed like a really tight, amazing tech team to make the, you know, all-around consumer platform that is modern day Canva. And it turns out that while he was on his phone the entire lunch that they had, he was actually just hitting up people who would meet with her during those 2 weeks and either give her advice or come on as advisors. And so he actually believed in the business idea quite a bit. And one of the guys he intros her to and she ends up meeting with is this guy named Lars Rasmussen, who was one of the co-founders of Google Maps. They got together and he was so normal and lovely. And she said that was another turning point in her mind because she was like, oh my God, he's so nice and normal. And we always think that these founders of big tech companies are like crazy and weird, and some of them are. But she was like, this guy is just like an everyday dude. I could be one of these people. And this is so important. I always say this. I mean, statistically, representation matters so much. That's why if you have an entrepreneur parent, oftentimes they will have entrepreneur kids, because it's all a matter of just vision at first. You know, you've got to just know that it's possible for yourself. And so many people who have parents that work a 9 to 5, that's all that they know is possible for their life. Melanie, seeing these huge tech founders and knowing that they're just normal people who worked really hard, made her believe if she had a good concept and she worked really hard, that could too be her. And it is her to this day. She's worth billions. He agrees to be an advisor, and he said under one condition, that he can pick her tech team. And Bill Tai is only going to invest also if Lars chooses and approves the tech team. But what happened was that she was then trying to find loads of tech teams, and he just kept saying no to all of them. He was very picky. And her 2 weeks in San Francisco ended up being 3 months. So what's going on with the current Canva business, aka Fusion, at this time? Cliff is running it all from Perth while Melanie is trying to secure investment. He's working really hard back there. She's trying to do her best in San Francisco, but she kind of feels like a failure because she's running around to all these meetings. And at the end of these 3 months, she leaves San Francisco with no tech team and no investors. Around this time, Canva keeps growing and they move their office from Perth to Sydney. Melanie is keeping in touch with Bill Tai. Bill Tai loved kite surfing, and he would bring venture capital friends to this conference in Hawaii just to go kite surfing. So he invites Melanie. He was like, you can just try, come hang out. Maybe you'll get some investors from it. I don't know. Melanie and Cliff both decide to go, and they have to learn to kite surf before going. They say it's very scary, but they're on a mission to go there and get their idea in front of more investors. And one day of the conference, she actually asked to go to the front and pitch the room. Her and Cliff do so, and they actually get some really good feedback. Ex-CEO of Shutterfly says, I'll invest in you guys, and some other people said so as well, but they weren't writing physical checks out that day. It was kind of more like, I'd be interested if you get some other big names on board, which is usually the case with raising investment rounds. They end up leaving the conference with no investment secure. This is 2012 now, and Cliff and Melanie decide to go out to San Francisco and keep trying. Melanie says that between the last time that she was in SF and this next time, she pitches around 100 people the idea of Canva. And when they're back, they meet Cameron Adams, who ends up being the third co-founder of Canva. He's ex-Google and has a lot of expertise in the tech industry. So by the time they leave San Francisco this next time, they are trying to raise $1.5 million, and they leave with $750,000. And within the next few months, they secure even more, and they end up capping at 1.6 million. And Australia is really keen to get them to continue doing business from there. And so they give them 1.4 million as, you know, another matching of that investment. So they now have $3 million to create this big graphic design platform from their former yearbook printing business. This is 2012, and it takes them an entire year to create the final Canva product because, again, they want it to be user-friendly for everyone. They had a lot of the mechanisms from the yearbook, period, but they wanted to do more, and they wanted to be even more user-friendly. They also hire about 15 people, so the company is growing quite a bit, and they launch in August of 2013. It's a pretty successful launch because they had some pretty well-known investors in their first round. They also had a TechCrunch article written about them. So they had about 50,000 people on their wait list before launching the actual site. This is what I love about tech companies and tech lovers. I remember the story about starting Uber. They knew that it was going to be kind of clunky at first. You might have to wait like 15 minutes for a driver because they didn't have as many people driving at that time when it was starting. So they really targeted tech people because they knew tech people were just excited about new innovations in tech and willing to kind of go with the beta form, knowing that it could be something really cool and they could be one of the first users. And I think that's kind of the same with Canva. They heard about this new cool graphic design platform coming out, backed by all of these amazing investors, and they wanted to sign up and be, you know, the first people to try it out. So how are they making money now? The method was a more freemium model. And by that, I mean, you can create an account for free. You can do many, many things for free. But if you want better photos or better graphics, you needed to pay for a membership. And so they made money two ways. People with their free accounts purchasing one-off like photos and, you know, fonts, all of that. And then also people with the subscription account. In their first year operating, they got up to 750,000 users. Well, that's kind of their origin story. They just, you know, they keep going on the up and up. They've done so many rounds of investment. It's wild. They have done all the way up to their Series E and then 3 more past that. They just keep raising more money, growing so fast. They've grown incredibly fast. And I'm gonna give you 2 wild stats right now. In 2016, their revenue leapt from $6.8 million to $23.5 million in 1 year. However, it's important to note also with tech companies, they take longer to get to their profitability point. They didn't become profitable until 2017, so that's 4 years after the big launch that they had. Another big leap is that in June of 2020, they were valued at $6 billion. And in September 2021, so just a year after that, they were valued at 40 billion. 6 billion to 40 billion, that's insane. However, at the end of 2022, they were valued at much less. They are currently a $26 billion company because of, you know, a lot of the tech declines that we've seen in the last year. Still, I mean, $26 billion, that's insane. And Melanie and her now husband, they're both billionaires. I mean, I could sit here and tell you all of the things that they did correctly to get there, but I think a big thing is just like there was such a huge hole in the market for this platform and no one saw it. Like, it's wild to me that this wasn't done earlier by one of the big people like Google or Microsoft. It's insane that you had to go to all of these different sites and download some apps like Photoshop and stuff just to do basic graphic design stuff, and there wasn't one place where you could edit videos and edit photos and create new graphic design. They just had a really amazing idea at a really great time. But on top of that, they put a lot of time and energy into this. I mean, think about Melanie going for 3 months to San Francisco way back before she even knew what was going to come of the company, chasing down investors, trying to get as many meetings as she could. She didn't even have a tech team. It's that tenacity, it's willing to get up every day and keep running towards this idea and this mission that you still don't know whether it's going to take off or not. It's the willingness to learn kite surfing just to get your idea in front of investors. So that's kind of the basic story of Canva and how it came to be. And again, if you haven't tried Canva, you should. I swear, you'll find reasons to use it for so many different things in your life. I love you guys so much. Thank you for sticking around for another storytime video. I gained 8 subscribers last week, so thank you guys so much. It means the world to me. I will see you in the next video. I love you guys so much. Mwah!